Today's episode of the WAC podcast is brought to you by Hercules Tires, the official tire of the Western Athletic Conference. Now here are your hosts, Eric Danner and Rachel Vigil.
What's going on, everybody? Rachel Vigil and Eric Danner coming at you. Eric, I cannot believe it's June 1st.
We've been looking forward to this day for a long time, Rachel, because there were so many events going on this spring and it's finally June. The baseball tournament's over, but it's going to be a short summer, I think, in terms of not much downtime, I think, because we have a lot coming up in the near future with new schools, new sports, a lot to look forward to in the Western Athletic Conference.
It's crazy. Yeah, like you mentioned, baseball is over with, which just blows my mind. We made it there, but you're right. Football coming in July 1st. That's a whole nother beast that we have to look forward to. But then also adding these new schools mean a lot is going to change for championships in the future.
A lot's going to look different, starting with baseball and softball, and could have different numbers of teams, different formats and the way the tournaments are set up. But the good news is, Rachel, 4 quality schools joining the WAC, and don't forget Southern Utah joining the year after that. And it's going to be a really good conference. Already is a good conference. It's going to be really good here next year.
It's going to be a lot of fun to watch. All right, let's talk about this baseball tournament, though, Eric. I still can't believe it's over, but huge congratulations to Grand Canyon on winning their first tournament title.
What a run they had, and we're going to talk to Andy Stankiewicz in our second segment. So many young players, so many people coming through in the clutch. Even I was looking back at some of the highlights from the championship game, Rachel, and they had so many key plays. If they go one way or the other, UTRGV would have a good shot at winning the game and potentially, coming back on the if necessary game. But GCU gets through, and I'm sure they're very excited to finally have that baseball championship because they've won a couple of regular season titles already. And to do it in Mesa, not too far away, about 45 minutes away from the GCU campus, had a good crowd out there and were able to celebrate with some of their fans and family. And it was a really fun event to be at. And it was fun to kind of feel normal again, wasn't it?
It was, there wasn't the huge mask mandate. You could wear it if you wanted to. Otherwise, it was your decision. A lot of places are opening up like that. But it felt like the first real normal sporting event that I had been to, at least, where it just felt normal. And it was so nice. It was nice to walk outside and not have to wear a mask. And it was just, it was one of those things where you don't expect it to feel so special almost, but because of the times we've lived in, it really did just feel normal, and it was. And it was great to see a crowd out there too. That UTRGV or Grand Canyon game, it got loud. UTRGV brought in a good amount of fans too, so it was definitely one of the best championship games that I've been a part of, just based on the game, because it came down to the very end, and to the crowd and the atmosphere, and everyone's just so excited to be there.
In the emotion from both teams, UTRGV had not won a game in the WAC tournament, which was the most surprising stat, I think, going into the tournament, because you think UTRGV's had a pretty good baseball program, especially the last few years, but they had just, the 2020, we didn't have a tournament. 2019, they were 2-out. This year they get to the championship, and wow, I mean, you look back at the tournament again, UTRGV, that very first game, Rachel, the walk-off homer by Jacob Hirsch. What an exciting way to advance. In Utah Valley, they're out in 2, and they get I think both games there was a walk-off. So I mean, they were right there with everybody too. And then Seattle U they knocked off New Mexico State 10-0. I mean, who would have saw that coming? So a lot of surprises, a lot of fun plays. We were going through that this morning, Rachel, looking for WAC top play, and I think there was 11 plays that legitimately could have been WAC top play this week. There's so many good players in the conference, and so many of them are young. I mean, Grand Canyon, how many freshmen contributing? Jacob Wilson, the third baseman, and Barry's the first baseman, both freshmen. They had many pitchers. I mean, they're going to be good, I think, for years to come. But then here comes the 4 new schools that are going to add even more competition to what's already a very good conference.
True. And you mentioned the run rule. What are the odds that there was multiple run rule games in one championship tournament? I was not expecting that one bit.
Multiple run rules and multiple walk-offs too. I mean, so we had both ends of the spectrum, but a shout out to everybody at Visit Mesa And what a good job they always do every year. It's so much fun to play at Hohokam Stadium, the home of the Oakland A's, and spring training. It's a professional facility. For me, Rachel, I'm in the booth, so I'm in the air conditioning. You're out in the sun for part of it anyway. And it was about 102. But I mean, maybe to me, might feel different to you. It didn't feel as hot this year as it's been
No.
some other years, but what a way to cap off a great spring for the WAC. And I mean, it's really amazing when you think back to this time last year and what we weren't sure was going to happen. And it's just so much fun to be a part of now.
It really is. And yeah, hats off to Grand Canyon. They're actually going to be staying in Arizona for the NCAA Regional as well. So not having to go very far. I know when we were talking to some of the coaches, they like that idea of traveling because of the experience, but it's nice to stay close to home. You can get a good crowd out there as well.
It's a pretty good gauntlet that they're going to have to go through. Arizona ranked number 6 in the country, the Pac-12 champion, so they're going to be playing in their house. Oklahoma State, a traditional power out of the Big 12. They're also going to be in that regional, as is Santa Barbara. So Grand Canyon definitely has their work cut out for them. But when you get to this point of the season, Rachel, there's not going to be any easy games.
No, but best of luck to the Lopes. We'll be cheering them on here in a few short weeks. And you mentioned Arizona there, Eric, being a powerhouse that they are. Well, Dixie State, they got a win against the Wildcats.
Yeah, Coach Stankiewicz might have to call Dixie State to see what their formula was there. They played a 3-game series. Dixie State was not eligible to play in the WAC tournament because it was a first year transitioning from Division II. They get a win on Friday night, 11-9. And the other 2 games, I mean, they were very respectable, losing 4-2 and 5-4. So some people might say, well, you know, maybe Arizona was resting their guys or what have you. Not for 3 games, that's for sure. And so hats off to Dixie State for knocking off the number 6 ranked team in the country. A very big win for the Trailblazers.
Yes, indeed. And then Grand Canyon having even more news, but this time in the outdoor track and field, 2 people are headed to nationals for the Lopes.
Both men's and women's track and field. And I actually field, if we're going to be technical about it, where they have Ethan Harris. He's the number 2 seeded high jumper in the country. He's a former national champion. He will be in Eugene, Oregon next week for the NCAA track and field championships. He might as well stay there because that's also going to be where they have the U.S. Olympic trials, and he's also qualified for that. Interesting story, if you have a chance to read it, on GCULopes.com by Paul Coro, who of course we've referenced many times and had him on the show a few times as well, about Ethan Harris and his road to this point. He's a former Division II national champion. Initially, he went to GCU, Rachel, to be a basketball player. And the coaches then, obviously he's a high jumper and he's a high flyer dunker type of guy, but maybe didn't have some of the other skills they were looking for, and wound up not playing on the team, and then transferred to Colorado Mesa and Grand Junction, did the same thing, tried to walk on the basketball team, and they were kind of like, yeah, we're good. So winds up impressing some people in a pickup basketball game with his high flying ability, and somebody, hey, why don't you go out for the track team? And winds up he's high jumping 7'5". I know they do it in meters for the NCAA. I still don't understand that in my head, but you say 7 foot and you think how high 7 foot is, and that somebody can clear that without touching it. That's pretty amazing. And then 7'5", that's even better. So Ethan Harris will be representing GCU at the men's NCAA championships. And they also had a women's qualifier as well, Rachel.
Madeline Lundberg, yeah, she's going in the pole vault. So huge congratulations to her. I actually saw her when I was down in Edinburgh, and she did a fantastic job. It was so much fun to watch. You know, the crowd gets pumped up, and there were people outside of the gates, and they were all kind of watching her too, because she was one of the last ones to go. So it was so much fun to watch. Yeah, she jumped a 4.27 meter jump, which is just insane to think about. I can't even imagine. I give huge props to anybody who can do any field events, because I could never. So huge congratulations to them. We're definitely going to be wishing them all the best as they move forward in Eugene, Oregon. Yes. And then you mentioned Dixie State too, not too long ago, with them beating Arizona in baseball. Well, in basketball, they've got a brainiac on their basketball team.
They certainly do, Rachel. Dixie State senior forward Hunter Schofield named to the COSIDA Men's Basketball Academic All-America second team, as announced by the College Sports Information Directors of America. He is the 3rd Trailblazer player in program history to earn academic All-America honors. He's 6'8", out of Spanish Fork, Utah, carried a 3.9 grade average in exercise science after posting a 4.0 perfect GPA this past spring. He was DSU's leading rebounder and was also ninth in the WAC and second leading scorer. And I think Hunter might have been a participant in our WAC basketball media day, if I remember correctly here, Rachel.
He was. You are absolutely correct. Yeah, he was. I wish I could remember back to any like fun questions we asked him, but he definitely was there. That seems like forever ago, Eric.
It was.
Well, we also have a new coach here in the WAC. Mike Smith is the new California Baptist softball coach.
Mike Smith returning to California Baptist. He was head coach of the University of Mississippi for 5 years between 2015 and 2019. He is returning to CBU, where he once upon a time was the coach. He's a San Diego native, so he gets to return home. And while he was head coach of the Lancers, they won the 2009 NAI National Championship. So CBU, as they tend to do with everything, I'm sure he'll get them going in the right direction here and get them competing for a WAC championship.
We will love to see it. All right, we talked about the new schools joining on July 1st. But Eric, it's been a really long time since we've seen a WAC logo on a football field. It
has. It's been 2012, I believe, was the last time the WAC sponsored the sport of football. Lamar was putting in their new turf. And if you check it out on their website there or on their Twitter feed, they have the WAC logo now on the field. So it's not too far away. July 1st, that's when these schools officially become members of the WAC. Of course, Lamar, Stephen F. Austin, Sam Houston State, and Abilene Christian being the four schools in Southern Utah joining the year after that. But it'll be fun to see WAC football back. And that's going to keep us busy this summer too, Rachel.
I know the WAC is back with football. We love to hear it. It's crazy to just even think about that, but it's going to be so much fun. So stay on the lookout for all of that content, everybody. And then we'll talking about men's golf real quick in these new schools. Sam Houston State finished tied for 9th in nationals in Scottsdale, which is right down the street from where we were this past week.
We should have gone and checked them out. Of course, we were busy with the baseball tournament, but congratulations to Sam Houston State finishing 9th in the country. So men's golf, I was trying to figure out how exactly they do this. So the teams that qualified from the regionals then went to Scottsdale for the tournament. And then the top 15 from that group after 3 rounds play a 4th round. And then they combine the scores of the 4 rounds, and the top 8 then go on to match play. And Sam Houston State finished 9th, just out of it. So very close. But I mean, you're talking against Arizona State, Oklahoma State, North Carolina, Sam Houston State, right up there with those schools. And we'll be very excited to see the Bearcats men's golf team in the WAC next year.
Yeah, they've been proving in all of their sports to be a powerhouse. It'll be a nice addition here in the WAC. Alrighty, that's going to do it for Eric and I's part. But when we come back from the break, we're going to be talking to GCU head coach Andy Stankiewicz.
Hercules Tires is the official tire of the Western Athletic Conference, and for over 65 years has been providing tires with unbeatable quality at an unmatched value. Whatever the vehicle and whatever the terrain, Hercules Tires invites you to ride on our strength. For a retailer near you, visit HerculesTires.com.
And welcome back to the WAC podcast. Eric Danner and Rachel Vigil, joined by Andy Stankiewicz, the head coach for GCU baseball. Coach, have you finally been able to wrap your head around this past week?
Yeah, it's been a whirlwind for sure, Rachel. It's happened fast and kind of furious. And then they had the selection show yesterday, and I think that's when it kind of hits you. You know, you see the guys in one spot, kind of celebrating all that. And so, yeah, it's coming fast, and but it's certainly been a great weekend for GCU baseball.
Coach, I was just talking to Rachel in our last segment, and watch some of that championship game over again, and so many key plays had to happen. Obviously, you had the if necessary game the next day, but some key performances, timely hitting, and I got to think that Chani Ortiz play in the 4th inning, that's right up there with some of the best plays we've seen, and what a team effort. I mean, that had to make you feel really good too, that it wasn't just a couple of guys. It was a real team effort to win that championship this week.
Yeah, it was. And game 1 against New Mexico State as well was similar in that fashion. It wasn't was a good ball game where we kind of had to kick and claw our way back into it and get a one. And then you're right. The play that Chani made, and it happened in the fourth, and it seems like it was so long ago that it's very easy to forget that play is not made. We're down 6-1, and that's a whole different ball game at that point, right? And so, and they made another great play where he came and had to come get a running play, kind of a chopper, where he came in on the run and made a bang play at first place on a good runner as well. And so, yeah, it's just, you're right. The game is sometimes plays out that way, and to where it's just you kind of piece it together in a bunch of small little great plays or a great at bat in the middle, turns into being obviously the reason you won, right? And so it was kind of cool to see that everybody was pretty involved in that. I mean, Elijah Burries, up until that last at bat was not very good. He was not having a very good day or an evening, but to put those previous at bats behind him and then hit a line drive to basically left center and say, you know what, I'm gonna turn this into a double. I mean, most guys are gonna stop at first base and just be excited that they finally put the ball and play hard. And this guy refused to take one with a two, and then obviously Dustin Crenshaw with a huge pinch hit, base hit, and then Tyler Wilson, again, young freshman that hadn't looked particularly great, his previous three at bats, and 2 strikes. Just kind of takes the ground ball up the middle to put us ahead. So a lot, and the pitching performances, all of it, as you guys know, it's just, that was a cool thing about it. I think everybody felt like there's a lot of key roles by different guys.
Coach, it felt like the momentum in the beginning of the game was really with UTRGV, and then it seemed like it just switched all of a sudden. When did you feel like it had switched, or did you even feel like that at all?
No, Rachel, I agree. I thought early on they had the momentum, they took it, and I feel like we were kind of out of sorts a little bit. I think we were kind of let the moment of that game kind of affect our play a little bit, and then just in the dugout. And the cool thing is, we got some nice older guys in our dugout. I could hear them saying to the guys like, "Hey, everybody, take a deep breath, relax." These are older guys that. The younger guys are playing in front of them, and they don't care. They don't. There's no ego. They just want to play well and have success. And I saw Braden Merritt, and I saw Dane, my son, and I saw kind of going around like, "Hey guys, we're good. Everybody relax. We're better than this. Let's just start playing GCU baseball. Let's start to get to first base. Let's play good defense, and we're gonna be fine." And I could tell that I think the younger guys are like, okay, let's get back to kind of our way, because I think you're right. The momentum was on their side big time, and I think that the job that Markle did, right, that Connor Markle coming in and kind of, we needed that. I mean, we didn't know whether he was going to go one batter or an inning. I mean, we just were like, okay, when he came out in the bullpen, we're like, to face the lefty, I forget his name with a long last name, but it was like he's going to face this guy maybe for one. And then maybe we're going to go right up to the bullpen right away. But then he settled in, and then for him to do what he did, it was like, whew, wow, this is big, right? So the job he did was fantastic. And so, but I do feel like as the game moved forward, I felt like we were starting to regain the momentum of the game.
Coach, you had so many freshmen who came through big for you too, and the story of Elijah Berries. So what a story that is as a freshman. And Paul Coro did a nice write-up on him a few weeks ago, and some of the struggles he had to go through. And for him to come through as a freshman, be first-team All-WAC, as you mentioned, had a big hit in the championship game. How do you find these guys, Coach?
Well, my recruiting coordinator, Greg Wallace, he finds them, and to his credit, I don't know. It was a kid from Orange Lutheran High School in Southern California. Good-looking athlete, I think kind of just overlooked a little bit in how that happened in Orange County. There's so many great players there, but he's not. Elijah doesn't pass the eye test game one. The more you watch him, over a weekend, you watch him over 7 games, the more you really start to appreciate what he can bring to a team. And I think that's what we kind of, as a staff, kind of saw that and believed it. And their coach at Eric Borba at Orange Lutheran said, "Hey man, this kid is kind of under the radar. This is a really good baseball player, and we brought him over here and didn't really know what to expect, but we knew he was going to be a grinder. We knew he was going to work hard, and he's basically since day one of the fall, we're like, hey, this guy's got a chance to be pretty good. I mean, he's fast, he's strong, puts the ball in play, and we as a program, we like putting the ball in play. I'm not a big fan of guys that just go up there and swing hard and miss a lot. And so we saw that he had the ability to shorten up his swing. I saw that when I asked him to choke up, he wasn't gonna be one of these guys that say, Coach, I don't choke up. I just try to hit home runs. He was, I got it. I'll do what you want me to do, Coach. So he's been and like you said, to go through the struggles he's gone through, his mom being ill and dealing with all that, his freshman year in college, being away, and the burden that can put on a young man. So, hey, man, this kid's off the charts, man, as far as just his character.
Coach, I actually have a two-part question. So, Eric, I'm going to follow one up real quick. But I want to talk about the pitching. You talked about Markle. Was there any thought with how hot he was doing for him to maybe finish out the game, or did you know for sure that you were going to bring someone in after him?
No, we just felt like we kind of do it in runs. You know what I mean? We felt like he was so good, but we felt like at that point, and I like to, and Coach Winty did this, we're on the same page. We like to try to let a guy get his work in, and then if he can have a clean inning and get out and feel good about himself, we like that. We like that. So that will lead to better days moving forward. And so we just felt like a lot of times with a lot of our relievers, if we see a situation where, man, it was a big inning, it was a big out, and he got out of it, it's like, unless we have nothing left else in the bullpen, it's like, hey, let's let him end on that. And so I think that in that respect with Connor, we just felt like, hey, he'd done so well and given us what we needed, right? And obviously you feel pretty good about Frankie Scalzo coming in and finishing out the game. Yeah. So.
And then with Pearson Ohl on Friday night against Sac State, was there any point that you thought about taking him out of the game?
Yeah, we did. But we knew that once we got past a certain point with Pearson, like he's done now for the tournament, right? And so, and I'm not sure he would have let me take him out anyways. I don't think he's the self-proclaimed king of the complete game. It doesn't matter if it's a 7-inning complete game or to him, it doesn't matter. And so, and it shouldn't. I mean, he's been fantastic. But we felt like, hey, he's moving fine. He's doing great. His pitch count was in the low, it was like 100. And so we feel like, okay, he's in a good spot. I mean, if it would have gotten up more than that, we would have probably said, okay, we need to probably take you out. But, when you're in the 10-run rule deal, it's like, hey, if we can get out of this thing, using no more relievers, it could very well be really beneficial as we move further in the tournament. And so that was part of that as well. It's like, hey, let's Pearson, don't, please, if you're going to end this thing, end it quick. Don't prolong this thing, because then we probably have to take you out. But we were on the fence a little bit, to be honest with you, Rachel. Yeah.
Coach Pearson Ohl, of course, was our WAC Pitcher of the Year, MVP of the tournament. You didn't start him in game one. What was some of the strategy thinking there? Because a lot of times, you pitch your ace game one, and then maybe you can get him back on Saturday or Sunday, but you pitch him in game two. What was the strategy behind that?
Well, Pearson's been a guy that Pearson's been a guy that typically, once when he pitches, he goes a long time, as you guys can see. He's always done that. So that to have him come back on a Sunday after starting right on a Thursday, probably wasn't really foreseeable. We just don't think that was going to be the best. Some guys that can do that and have been able to do that, but we just didn't think it was the best. It would line up well for him. And the other thing was, we felt like game two, right, was going to be pivotal, right? So if we could, now this is the risk, obviously. If we get game one, we feel like with Pearson going game two, we feel like we're going to be in a pretty good spot, to get to that championship game. Now, obviously, there's always that risk that you don't win game one, and now you're kind of backfired on you. But that was part of it. Two things: we didn't think we could use Pearson again later in the week, even if he started on Thursday. Now, if we weren't in the winners, if we weren't the 1 or 2 seed, and you were going to start on a Wednesday, maybe. And he did that a couple of years prior. But starting on Thursday, we just felt like let's hopefully get game one, and then we got Pearson game two, and we think that'll set us up for a good weekend.
Coach, who surprised you the most? I mean, you knew Pearson was going to go out there to perform. Is there anybody that maybe isn't typically on people's radar that you walked away with and you thought they had an amazing performance?
Well, Connor Markle was one of those guys because he's been kind of a roller coaster ride. He started here against ASU, and he did great. And then we went down to U of A, and he started against U of A. He didn't fare as well. But he's been really good in conference. And so we feel like, okay, what you're going to get out of him, well, we don't really know. We like his arm. We think he's got a great future. But what he did in that game was huge. Like you said, kind of slowed down their rhythm, slowed down their momentum, and kind of got it shifted back towards us. But he's been fantastic. I mean, so I think that's a huge part of it, I think. And then, one of the guys that's kind of been unsung for us a little bit is Johnny Weaver. I know he bats ninth, but he really kind of adds depth to our lineup back in the back end because he can run, he can add some things. And so I think, for us to have success this weekend, we're going to have some wins through our lineup. It can't be just the guys at the top. We're going to have to stretch this lineup out a little bit, and we know that. And so I think Johnny Weaver is really had a nice job coming on later in the year. Didn't start at the beginning of the season, but didn't complain, just came to work every day and worked hard. And now what he's been able to give us, late in the year is pretty valuable.
Coach, then you get the word you're going to the NCAA Regionals. You draw Arizona in a region with Oklahoma State and Santa Barbara as well. Arizona, obviously a team pretty well, and we just saw them play Dixie State in a 3-game series this past weekend. So going into this upcoming week, what are you looking for?
Well, we know they can hit. That they got one of the top offenses in the country. In order to do well versus them, we have to. They're going to score runs, and we got it. They're really good offensively. But the key, I think, for us will be able to give up a 1, give up a 2. If you start giving up more than that to them, you're gonna find yourself probably in a deeper hole than you want to be in. And so I think that'll be key is ability to kind of weather some storms, I guess, so to speak, early in the game, right? Where big pitch, a big play, we get out of the inning and they scored 1 versus getting away from you and they scored 4 or 5. And that's when we went down to their place. That's what happened. The game got away from us, and next thing you know, you were chasing, 7, 8, 9, 10 runs, and it's hard to get back. And so you can't give them freebies. You have to make them work. You can't. They're really good offensively. So we feel like, hey, that's kind of been what we've been able to do all year long is throw strikes right down the zone, pitch to contact, hopefully weak contact. And obviously, Oklahoma State's a team that's big and strong and very, very physical. And so you better get, and we know that High Corbett is a offensive ballpark. So you better get the ball down. Last time we were there, when we played them, the wind was blowing out and it was a tough place to play. And so I'm not sure what we're going to have this weekend, but it's a big ballpark and the ball jumps. So we're going to have to throw the ball down the zone. We're going to play great defense. And then Santa Barbara's, look at them. They got speed, they got athleticism. I've watched them a little bit already. They're fast and strong, and their offense is good. So, and they can really pitch. I mean, they got 2 guys that looked up at the front. Their numbers are fantastic, and so I think it's a good regional. I think it's got some everybody. I really feel like, us included. I think that anybody can win this regional.
Coach, how do you not let the moment get too big for your team?
Well, I think Rachel was helped us is we've played Oklahoma State already at their place, right? We played Oregon State here for 4. We opened up with Missouri here for 4. I think that the guys we try to put them in environments where the moments are already big, and so they get comfortable in those moments, right? And I think playing Cal Baptist at the end of the year with something on the line, and they're good. We all know how good they are. They're well coached. They got great players. That was helpful because there was the last 2 weekends. They weren't just let's get the weekend over with. there was something online, obviously the WAC conference tournament, that's huge. But before that, playing Cal Baptist was big. And going to Tarleton the weekend before. In Tarleton, that place is really offensive, and they keep coming at you. We won 4, but it was draining. It was emotional, right? And so I think that the way it's played out for us, I just feel like we've already played in some really big moments, Rachel, where we're like emotionally like drained when the game was over. I mean, in the 4-game weekends that we had to play in WAC conference, I think it's helped us. I think it helped us in the tournament. I think it's going to help us this weekend as well, because if we have to play 4, we're like, well, we've been playing 4 all year long. This is nothing new to us. This is what we've been doing. And the other teams, they haven't. They've been playing. Well, I take it back. Santa Barbara, they have been playing doubleheaders in the middle as well, but the other teams have not. So we'll see. Hopefully, it'll play to our advantage.
Coach, you mentioned emotion there, and at the end of the WAC tournament, you get the win. Rachel and I were saying probably one of the best celebrations we've seen. And I think a lot of that had to do with GCU and UTRGV had not won the tournament before. So there was a lot of emotion. Sometimes when teams have been there before, that maybe they don't enjoy the moment as much. During the interview with Rachel, you get the Gatorade dunk by your son. What was that like, being able to celebrate with them, and then your family being there, and also having your 300th win all at the same time?
Well, it was really cool. And I didn't know it was a 300th win. I had no idea. So that was a kind of a wow, kind of cool perk, I guess. But with my son, and I might get emotional because he's been here for 5 years. He's been about GCU baseball since he got here. He didn't come in here with any like, oh man, I got to play every day. I got to get drafted. I got to do this. It's never been about that for him. It's about, Dad, I just want to be a part of the program. I want to help the team win. I want to help you. I want to be a coach someday. It's always been about everybody else. And he came back for, the COVID year hit, and he graduated, and it's like, what should I do? And we talked about it, I'm like, well, you got a year back, you can start your master's, and do that, but it'd be maybe cool to come on back 1 more year and see where it goes, and maybe we get to a regional, man. It'd be kind of fun for you to be a part of the first team that ever got to a regional in the Division I era at GCU. And so, he's like, yeah, that's what I want to do. And then Jack Schneider is another guy that hasn't pitched as much. Neither one of them has played as much, but it has never been about that for either one of those guys. It's been about being a part of a team and doing something special together. And so that's the part that as a head coach, but then certainly when you're as a dad, that's really cool, is that we got to share, like you said, when he got to dump that thing on me. That was probably the highlight of my baseball career.
Coach, you have to be honest with me. Did you know it was coming? Because I started to back up super fast.
I did not know until I started using it. You started move back a little bit. I was like, oh, here, I think it's coming. This thing is coming. Then that's one you're happy to wear, man. I wear that one every day.
Well, Coach, congratulations again on winning the championship. We'll be rooting for you at the regional in Tucson, and go Lopes. I guess we can say that now.
Let's do it. Let's make the WAC proud. That's our goal.
Thanks again, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you, Coach. That's Andy Stankiewicz, head baseball coach at Grand Canyon, joining us on the WAC podcast.
Make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. And check out our website at wacsports.com.